For nearly 2 years now, Boston Mayor Michelle Wu has been trying to address the addiction and homelessness crises concentrated at Mass and Cass. But recently, she made a surprise admission on the program Java with Jimmy, saying with violence rising and some providers pulling out of the area, it's time to switch gears.
This is the issue that I feel like we've been pouring a lot into, and I have to make a judgment call that we need to reorient and really find the approach that's going to make a big difference.
What that could mean is still unclear, partly because Wu went on a planned vacation soon after making those comments. But since those remarks, the future of Mass and Cass has become the big topic in city politics. I'm joined now by GBH News reporter Tori Bedford, who's reported extensively on Mass and Cass, and by former Bay State Banner senior editor Yawu Miller, who's done the same. Thank you both for being here. Yawu, were you surprised to hear Mayor Wu come out and say what we just heard her say in that clip?
A little bit. I mean, it's a change of course for her administration. And, you know, I mean, I do think, I mean, we've all seen certain aspects of the situation getting worse there in recent weeks with stabbings, et cetera. So, and with people pulling out from their service providers. So, yeah, it was still somewhat surprising to hear her.
I want to roll, before going to you, Tori, a bite of Wu talking about the efficacy of the city's approach, because she seemed to be, in that appearance, delivering some contradictory messages, saying on the one hand, we got to do something different, we got to take a major step on public safety, but also saying the city has achieved a lot at Mass and Cass under her tenure. So let's listen to how she describes that second point.
Between housing that is low threshold, 24-hour medical support, job counseling, case management, nearly half of the people who were originally at Mass and Cass when I came into office and took this on are not only gone through transitional housing, but all the way to permanent housing because they have changed their lives. The challenge is at this point, the city of Boston has served more than 400 people through even though there were 200 residents when I first came into office, overall we've served more than 400 people in this, and hundreds more people have arrived in Boston from all around the region and all around the country, frankly.
So what I hear her saying there is, we're getting results, we just can't get results at the pace we need to because the volume of people we have to help is so great. Given that, you can tell me if I'm misinterpreting it, but do you think that when she is back and changes whatever she's going to change, how much continuity is there going to be with what the city was doing previously, and how much new do you expect her to introduce?
So I recently covered a presser. She had a presser about reopening the Long Island Bridge, and they received a big permit from the state, and now
that just happened.
That just happened, and so they're moving forward with that, and they're hoping to rebuild that campus there, which they're hoping will kind of alleviate some of the pressure from Mass and Cass. The thing that confuses me is that we have, you know, and this could be, or I think this is her point, is that this is unacceptable. We have this around the same number of people during the day at Mass and Cass as we had last summer. And if you look, Yawu mentioned the stabbing. There was a triple stabbing in July. That was the only spike in the BPD response, like the incident reports. So far, I'm not really sure what people are talking about with increased violence.
Yeah, actually,
besides that.
You've anticipated another question I wanted to ask you, which is this quantifiably correct that violence has intensified?
Most of what I've heard has been anecdotal, and the thing I think that is really different right now, the thing that is new and that is being talked about as a new rhetoric, is that public safety officers, EMTs and police officers, feel unsafe. And Ed Flynn talked about this, President of the City Council, right? He talked about how he believes that the police officers feel unsafe there. The EMTs don't want to respond; they feel unsafe.
Some service providers, right?
Yeah,
from organizations that provide help.
They were notified. They were pulled out of the scene after that stabbing. I'm wondering what is happening there, that people who have been trained and have for years now been responding to emergencies, dangerous emergencies, are now feeling unsafe in that space.
Well, is it possible, and you can hop in here too, I don't want to freeze you out now that we started having this convo, is it possible that the number of response calls is the same, maybe even below what it was at certain points last year, but the intensity of the violence has increased?
Anything's possible. I just haven't seen the numbers because I know I was there last summer and someone came up to me and said, hey, this guy's been stabbing people. You might not want to keep talking to him. And I said, okay, cool, thanks so
advice.
much. Right, it was just like people working in the engagement center. But there was no police intervention or involvement during that interaction. And I think that is what I have, again, anecdotally heard from a lot of people, is that people are afraid to get out of their cars.
I'm glad you brought up everything you did, but I still want a prediction for what the mayor might do when she comes back down. I'm going to go to Yawu first,
Yes,
and we'll see if you agree with his. What do you think what might this major step that Mayor Wu has said is in the works, especially involving public safety, what might it be?
We don't know. I mean, we've heard from some of the conservative members of the city council a call for a warrant sweep, which
Also Congressman Steve Lynch, right?
yeah, I mean, that got the
Senator
city in hot
Collins.
water last time because the way they conducted it was unconstitutional. I don't know that there is a constitutionally viable way to do a warrant sweep,
And
as they say.
just because that'd be going into the neighborhood and seeing if anyone who is there has a warrant out for their
They were
arrest,
pulling people, yeah, they were sort of like, stopping people, accosting them, like arresting them, essentially, like taking them into custody, in legal terms, and running their information to check if they had warrants, and that's not. I mean, that's a Fourth Amendment violation.
Okay, so what do you think the mayor might be looking to do with this major step that she said is coming?
Both, when I spoke to Ed Flynn and City Councilor...
You keep getting ahead of me because I want to
I'm
ask
sorry,
you about
okay,
it.
I'm sorry.
No, it's totally
He
fine.
mentioned the warrant sweep, and she was asked about it, Mayor Wu was asked about it during this presser on Long Island, and I don't anticipate that it is going to be happening soon, but I think that what they've all said is that they need public safety to feel safe in order to conduct something like that.
Okay, so if that's not happening soon, what might the major step be that she's talking about? Or do we just not know yet? Okay.
I mean, she could be talking about... She recently put out an RFP, request for proposals for affordable housing. It was $25 million, which really isn't a lot, but like that's something.
Yeah, but that's
Long
it
Island
sounds
is
like she's
something.
talking about a major step specifically in connection with public safety or perceptions around
Cass.
public safety.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
I do think there's something. I've been trying to figure this out, and we're just having this interview in the middle of me trying to figure
I
this
actually
out. but-
love interviews that are rife with ambiguity and uncertainty.
Right.
So
we don't. Okay.
we're doing it here.
I'm not going to lie to you, but I think the police and the EMTs and perhaps some of the caseworkers do. There are concerns about safety, and I'm not sure where that's coming from beyond a narrative based on a few anecdotes.
Yeah, well, you actually mentioned increased violence very early on in this conversation. Do you agree with Tori that this is a narrative-driven problem, or do you think the problem objectively
know.
exists?
Yeah.
With her suggestion that it may be a narrative-driven
I don't know
We just
either.
don't know.
I mean, I don't either. But in politics, opinions count for more than facts, right? So, and that's where we're at. I mean, we have again some of these more conservative-leaning city councilors who are pushing this, in an election year. Pushing this issue.
Well, and this also, it seems to me, I feel like I read a couple articles about similar problems in Portland, Oregon, in the weeks before the mayor came out and said what she did on Java with Jimmy. San Francisco's gotten a lot of attention. Homelessness challenges in New York have gotten a lot of attention. So it does feel like there's sort of a shift going on, maybe in a national narrative around these problems. Again, I'm thinking out loud here. Let me ask you another political question. Was it an unwise move on the mayor's part to say things aren't working, we really need to make a big change, and then head off on a vacation, even though it was a planned vacation? Because it seems to me like she put herself in a bad spot with that.
I think so. I mean, I think mass and cast is a tough issue for any mayor. It's no win, right? Like, I mean, I think Marty Walsh is probably sitting on his veranda just being thankful that he's not mayor of Boston dealing with this issue anymore. Every city council candidate, in the last election said they wanted to decentralize mass and cast. But, I mean, other than, areas in and around Roxbury, like there's been no move to actually expand services outside of the mass and cast area. So it's a tough issue for Wu. And I think if I were her, I'd probably rather be on vacation while all this stuff is playing out than answering those tough questions.
All right, last question to you, and I need a super quick answer here. I apologize for that. Ed Flynn told you at the start of the week when he was acting mayor that this was going to be his focus as acting mayor. I know he toured Mass and Cass early in the morning on Monday. You were with him. Has he done anything else?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
I don't think he's not going to do a sweep.
Yeah.
That is not in that is not in his plans. And I've heard from a Wu spokesperson that she is still in charge of all major decisions.
Right, yeah.
She was at the presser. Is she still on vacation at the presser?
I think she is still technically on vacation, but I'm not sure because, as you mentioned, it didn't really seem to be an operative vacation. If she's still making decisions involving key stuff in the city.
That sucks.
Yeah, she's on vacation. All right.
So I don't know. Yeah.
Tori Bedford, Yawu Miller, thank you both for
Thanks,
talking this
Adam.
through.